Why are MMORPGs so much less popular nowadays? Market saturation. Used to be there were only like 5 big MMOs, now there's hundreds, but the total number of players has not gone up nearly as much. So each specific game is only kinda popular among people who play MMOs. The world is different. Before MMOs I was on chat rooms ICQ and MSN Messenger. The world wasn't connected like it is now. MMOs were pretty much the only games that were online, and there was social media anywhere near how it is today, and nothing like Discord. And we sure as hell didn't have smartphones. I didn't even have a cell phone when I started MMOs. Now people have the internet in their hands, and can be connected to online friends and strangers through nearly countless means, and it is actually more rare these days for a game to not have online than it is to be online. Many pre-WoW MMOs didn't have quests like people think now. No markers, and they weren't how you leveled. Solo play was mostly not a thing. You had to just hang out and chat with people and make groups manually, and it was considered fun to just chat to people because it was novel to be playing a game with someone in another state or country. That concept is not new or novel anymore. I think the big downfall of them is time commitment, pay-to-win mechanics, and simply old vs new scope and size. If you are playing an MMO seriously, that's basically all you can play, and a lot of the games really leaned into the system of having dailies and weeklies and essentially time-locked progression. It didn't used to be like that where you had 3-4 hours worth of chores you needed to do each day. And pay to win is just a gigantic one. Every single new MMO is pay to win absolutely through the roof, so people just know not to get involved in them. The last issue is just scope. You've had new well-made games come out, but the new games almost always feel empty or small, because they are empty and small. Your new game developed in a few years is competing against games with up to 26 years worth of content. One complaint you often hear in new MMOs like New World is just there's no end game or there's nothing to do. WoW used to be like that. I remember playing the month it came out, you got to max level, and then there was nothing to do, so I went back to EverQuest, which was 6 years old with like 5 expansions at that point, so the people joining these new MMOs who are your most hardcore players very quickly exhaust the content. In my opinion, a lot of it is because they are just not very fun anymore. Every single one is a mess of grind by design, so you spend absurd amounts of your time playing them, and they have negative feedback loops. You spend all that time only to have it all basically become irrelevant every year when the next expansion comes out. Add on to this the microtransactions, the gold farmer spam, the fact that the player bases have increasingly become mean and insufferable, and then the fact that everyone is a dumbed-down version of the same thing and it's just not worth it anymore. Back in the day it was more community-focused, forcing you to socialize instead of hitting a button and having a team for group content near instantly. You met people you could be friends with. I believe it's because people found other places to socialize. Nobody has really figured out a better play loop than WoW, sadly. Once the novelty of a big, somewhat open world wears off, you start to realize that every MMO is just an endless series of fetch quests, incredibly frustrating escort missions that everyone hates, and dungeon raids for the minuscule chance of getting some rare equipment. You can change up the battle mechanics, you can make the graphics better, you can let people fly and give them pet Pokemon and all that great shit, but so long as the core play loop is just get me 8 walrus tusks, it's going to wear out quickly. Nowadays online co-op has basically replaced MMOs, since it makes for faster, more diverse games, and you can play with just your friends. WoW came out at the perfect time of novelty, mass high-speed internet, barebones social media, basic wiki snow min-maxing, or pay to win everywhere. You can actually absorb yourself into the world. I tried getting into WoW Classic and got to level 50 or so in 2 weeks, then the thought of raiding Molten Core just filled me with dread, and I got bored quickly. I don't think it's actually that deep, and it's a simple novelty worn out. In 2005 MMOs were the thing. Now it's just another genre. They are still popular, but not hot anymore. Imagine playing in a huge world for the first time, never experiencing anything like that before. Nowadays, we've seen it all, so it's not so shocking. MMOs weren't huge, World of Warcraft was huge, WoW has gotten much worse, and the luster has worn off, so it's less popular. I still want to play them. Problem is they are either full of microtransactions, bots, 2W stuff, or it's all just the same thing recycled over and over and over again, so there's basically nothing new, but a bit different graphics, so I lose interest in the game within a day or so. I remember playing SWTOR back in the day. I was happy to pay something like 10-15 month, it was worth it. Then they changed it to F2P with the MTX store, and it became absolute trash. Nothing felt like a value, it all felt like they were trying to scam me on every screen. I gave up. I don't have the wherewithal to be sexually propositioned by 12-year-olds, so I stopped playing them. Not twitchy enough for the Zoomer gamer. Tons of existing players make it so hard for others to enjoy the games because they are elitist. Plus many people don't want to be required or feel pressured into a constant grind like so many MMOs do. Most MMOs now are just made to quickly get as much money as possible then die. They are all the same dumbed down game with different cutscenes and pay walls. Dungeons and Dragons should probably be in court for that shit. I played EverQuest, FF14, and WoW to death. I've played random other ones a bit, but not nearly as much. The reason I don't play anymore is that they just haven't made one worth playing in a long time. The ones I loved have mostly gone downhill or just stayed the same, so I lost interest. The people I played with dropped off, and the games aren't as social as they used to be, so you don't make new friends as much. There's a million other online multiplayer games to play now that are more pickup and play friendly that my gaming friends prefer. Nowadays, if I jump back into an MMO, it's just to do some leveling and messing around on a new character before I get bored and quit again. I'd love it if a modern-day WoW killer was made with a huge budget, but I imagine publishers don't see the value in it when much cheaper games can be milked. I do recommend checking out Josh Strife Hayes on YouTube. He makes videos on MMOs, while also reviewing them. But he also make discussion videos about things like why people play MMOs solo, or problems with things like PvP. His video on why gamers quit is tangential to what you're asking. Some of the points he makes that I feel are relevant is that MMOs are a huge time investment, and people just don't have the time for them comparatively. I think the experiences you had along the way was most of the draw, and you can never get back the experience of getting into MMOs. Going from an MMO noob to an expert was the game, and you can only do that once. You can jump from game to game along the journey there, but once you are at the end you've had enough. And now most of the people to whom that appeals have done it.